Well, all these years that I was saying that I liked Genesis of the Daleks but not loved it, well, all of those years are gone now because now I do love it. Somehow I enjoyed it a lot more on the rewatch. There are still bits I'm not so keen on, but I guess I'm now a fan of it again, or at least more than I used to be. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Season 12, Story 4, Genesis of the Daleks. And this is the story that is widely considered the best Doctor Who story of all time, and in the 1998 Doctor Who magazine poll, it was voted #1 story of all time, as seen in this sticker here. Respect the sticker. Although it didn't keep that spot on the following two polls that came in 2009 to celebrate 200 stories. The first one was to celebrate 35 years. The 200 story ones, Caves of Androzani won that one, and I think this came third. Blink was second. And then the third one was in 2014 after the 50th anniversary and after the 11th Doctor's era had finished. And this story again came third, this time behind The Day of the Doctor and then Blink again at second. And Caves ended up being fourth that time. So, yeah, but this is still widely considered one of the best stories of all time and widely loved by fans. I mean, there are some people who aren't big fans of it. Some people aren't. I think everyone likes it. I think there's just some people who just find it overrated and don't quite enjoy it as much as everybody else. I was one of those people for a while, and I still have some pretty a couple of gripes, but I guess I love this story now. I enjoy it a bit more. I mean, problems out of the way first. There is a lot of back and forth walking and running around throughout the first 5 episodes. The first episode is actually okay in the first half when they're walking around Skara. It's actually a bit tense during the battleground. But around second half of episode 1 and up to episode 5, it is a bit... there's a lot of walking and running around. Thankfully, they do skip a lot the journey from the Cardiff City to the File City in episode 3 when the Doctor and Harry go over to try and rescue Sarah, so that's good. I also had quite a bit of issues with the shouty, idiotic people in some of the stories. However, I can understand some of that is for context. Other times it doesn't quite annoy me, and other times it doesn't last very long. The worst case is probably in episode 2 when the Doctor and Harry are about to be scanned. I think that's about it, and maybe some of Raven's talk, but we're in episode 1 but episode 3 he becomes a good character, so that's alright. Shame we didn't get to see more of him, because I would have preferred more of what he had in episode 3 than what he had in episode 1. That's just me. But how the Doctor manages to get away from him is pretty good. Although he does tell neither they're not mutos and they're not files, but then a few minutes later he does says they could be mutos that have developed brain patterns. Yeah, they do go back and forth on some decisions in the story. That is certainly one of them. There might be some. I don't know about anything else. And I'd say the files are pretty big brutes when they're using the rockets. I suppose context-wise they are to be as bad, if not worse, than the Carlets. But they just get really pushy, and the actors they get, they sound like they're from up north. I mean, no problem with that, but they sound like northern people you would meet at a pub. No offence to anybody. And that one that dangles Sarah Jane off the edge of the metal pole at the top of the rocket. What a dick. I really have liked to have Sarah Jane pretty much push him off that metal platform and he falls to his death. But that's just wishful thinking, or at least scare him into thinking, here's a taste of your own medicine. Git. And that whole trying to escape Rocket to Sino thing, that really just feels there to A, for a cliffhanger, and B, to pad out the runtime. I think the story could easily have been 4 parts, and I think along with that, lots of running around stuff, walking around stuff, and quite a bit in episode 1, and maybe a bit in episode 5. Alex Patterson did mention that episode 5 could be lost and you wouldn't lose much. Or at least cut down, as he mentioned when he was talking about the Omnibus Edition movie, when he was doing his 100 episode tag, and that's episode he didn't tag, but the other 5 he did, and he explains that episode 5 does a lot of running around. So he felt that could be cut down, as seen with the movie version, that could be cut down. The movie version you can find on the Season 12 Blu-ray, if you've got that. Or if you've had a screening of it. But yeah, I can see his point, and I think the problem can be extended to episodes 2 and 3 just as much. They just in the case of cutting down stuff, I think parts of episodes 2 and 3 could have been doing that. And episode 3 recaps quite a lot of the end of episode 2, I would say. Well, it feels quite a lot. I mean, some of the other stories last season were doing this quite often, recapping quite a few lengthy chunks of the previous act. In one case, Planet Spies Part 6, it even had an entire additional scene or 2, additional scenes in the middle. Though I will say episode 2 to recap, there is no recap at the start of episode 2, it just dives right in. It's just that episode 3 has a pretty lengthy recap. And considering episode 3 is the shortest episode, I'm not sure. But the story is actually, I do have some good times with the story. It's actually got some interesting stuff. It's a pretty dark story, but it's also manages to give that tension. Great tension. The characters are great. Michael Wisher is perfect as Davros. He's just absolutely in his zone. He's just amazing. Yeah, the character can be a bit of a prick. It is a big prick, but Michael Wisher does a great job with it, as does Peter Miles with Nyder in his signature role. And I also think the other scientists and the military guys in the bunker also do some good stuff. There is this other prick of a file leader, but he becomes nice after he pretty much wipes out the Carlo race for a couple of seconds. Not the Carlo race being dead for a couple of seconds, I mean the guy being nice for a couple of seconds, but you also got this nice girl who's helps lead the resistance. This said girl is the stock Terry Nation female character who we've seen 2 times before. However, I think this is the best one of these 3. She actually has a pretty determined character, and I think she's stronger than the other 2, and does a bit more stuff despite having less screen time. But she does some good stuff, as does this really great Muto character who helps out Sarah Jane and befriends Harry and the Doctor as well, and he helps out quite a bit and helps the File Girl as well. And of course our main 3 leads are probably at their best in this season, and I think this will probably be Ian Marter's best performance, considering how many stories he gets. This is his best performance. Also for Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen, certainly the best one so far. Could change in a couple of episodes, although Sarah Jane mentions that the Daleks are the most evil creatures in the universe, and whether she's quoting the Doctor on that bit, or whether by past experience, who knows. I think there was a story in between where we should have seen Sarah find out how deadly the Daleks were, because she knows what they're like from Death to the Daleks, but I don't think she quite got them as much as Joe did, or some of the other companions. So I think there should have been another story in between where she had that experience. But nevertheless, that scene at the end of Part 5 and the scenes in Part 6, they're just brilliant. Got some really great stuff, and I like how Harry's actually staying pretty quiet whilst the Doctor and Sarah Jane are debating what to do about the Daleks. And yeah, that Time Lord at the start, the actors does a good job, but I think they should have brought back the guy from Terror, Terror of the Autons to establish a bit more continuity. Plus, the guy wears some questionable clothes in this story. At least the other guy tried to blending in. The first minute or two is actually pretty shocking for television in 1975. I don't know whether people would have liked seeing war depicted on television screens at 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. And yeah, in fact, this story got a reputation by Mary Whitehouse for being tea time terror for tots. Remember that name? She's gonna be making a lot more fuss in the upcoming years. Yeah, the story does have some great moments. I just think there's some weak moments that I've already explained about, but I think it does get strength. And middle part 4, that's where it had gone. That's where it was really great for me on previous viewings. And I think whilst the other 3.5 episodes are also great, I think it does pick up a bit more when it gets halfway through part 4. That being said, the other episodes are really great. The other bits are also really great. It's just that at points in those first 3.5 episodes, it slows down a bit. Slows down in some places. And again in part 5. Part 6 is absolutely perfect. I have absolutely nothing wrong with part 6. Although the ending could have been slowed down a little bit, which is a complete opposite of what I was saying about the other parts of the story where they could have been cut. This time I think this one should have been extended. But oh well. Is Sarah Jane smiling when they're spinning around on the floor? And yeah, it does look like they are just dancing around in a circle. It does look like an odd effect, and this does also go into the start of the next story as well. But oh well. Nice sting at the end of the episode, by the way. Nice new version of the sting as well. Yeah, so it's a good. I don't think the ending's particularly amazing, but I do think it's satisfying. I think it's satisfying. I was reading on Wikipedia that someone had been disappointed by the ending. I think the last minute or two, maybe, but certainly all the stuff that was leading up to that was amazing. And Davros realising that what the Doctor and all the other people were saying mattered. Yeah, I think it probably took him by surprise. Although, does he try to change this in the future? Nope. When next time we see Davros, he just wants to make the Daleks even stronger. So, yeah, I guess getting killed doesn't make you change your ways. Yeah, Davros gets killed at the end of the story, but he will be back. He will be back. So, yeah. We'll have to wait 5 years. 5 seasons. 5 seasons. About 4.5 years. When was this? This was March to April 75. He would return in September 79. So just over 4 years and 4 seasons. 13, 14, 15, 16, and 4 seasons time. 5 seasons time. 5 seasons, just over 4 years. He will be back in Destiny of the Daleks. And that's when the next Dalek story is as well. And speaking of the Daleks, brilliant. I mean, they do not have that much to do in the middle, after exterminating the Files and then coming back as part of Davros' trap for the rebel Khalids. They don't get a huge amount to do, but whenever the Daleks are on screen, it's a joy. And considering this is Genesis of the Daleks, the origin of the Daleks, this is the origin story, or at least just after the first couple Daleks and the final notches, and then the new breed are being created. But they are still really great in the story. They are really brilliant. Again, they don't get a huge amount to do around the middle between the massacre on the File Dome. Well, second half, I should say, between the massacre of the File Dome and the massacre of the rebel Khalids. But they do have some really great moments throughout the episodes, and we have probably the best Dalek voices of the classic series, in my opinion, and I've been standing by this for a long time, that I believe Roy Skelton's Dalek voices in the story are the best of the classic series. There have been some great Dalek voices in the past, and some absolutely shit ones, may I mention. Certainly in the past couple of years, there's been a few problematic ones, but I think this is certainly the best one of the classic stories, and we're not going to have anything better until Nicholas Briggs becomes the definitive Dalek voice, the go-to and later definitive Dalek voice in 2005, for on-screen at least. But classic series, Roy Skelton, easily the definitive classic series Dalek voice, and this is easily the best ones for the classic Daleks. And I find the atmosphere of the story is actually really great, and some really great stuff. And as I mentioned in Robot, there are some Nazi-themed connections I've seen with the cards. I would also say the files also may or may not have some themes. I mean, they are brutes in some places, so they're not completely likeable like they were in the Daleks and Plans of the Daleks when they were seen as good guys against the evil Daleks. This time, both sides are pretty exactly the same. It's just that more focus is on the Khalid people because they're the ones who are going to become the Daleks in the future. Davros is a Khalid, and he is creating Daleks from Khalids, although the Davros audience has him say that the first mutant is a Phal, but naturally later ones would be Khalids, maybe mix of both if there's any surviving Phals. And yeah, it's really good. Again, the cave and monster stuff with the mutant stuff, again, it's got some good stuff there. Again, that could have been cut down. Some good stuff though. And the meeting of the politicians, it does go down well. I think overall this story is just brilliant. It's just that I still have a couple of personal issues with it that had plagued me for years since watching this story. But for the first time ever, I love Genesis of the Daleks. And yeah, I think a lot of people are going to like at worst, love at best, claim it as their number one, their favourite, or the best. At the best. So yeah, Genesis of the Daleks. I mean, I wouldn't consider it one of my favourite stories of all time. I wouldn't consider it the best story of all time. I don't even consider it the best of the season. But it's certainly a very strong one. And you know what? I think I will be putting this as one of my highest Tom Baker stories. So this is, yeah, I would say this is easily one of Tom Baker's best stories. So there's at least two, I think it would be at highest third. I think at highest. I don't think it'll be any lower than that though either. So I think it'll be about, when I get to my Tom Baker ranking, it will probably be about third, and it will be sometime just a little bit below that for the 70s ranking as well, probably. I'm going to have to update those lists. Certainly for season 12, I think it's second best, but it's just because I prefer the Ark in Space. That is one of my favourites. But this is certainly a very, very high rated story, in my opinion. Now more than ever before. And before that, it wasn't that high. I mean, it was high, but not very high. So, I guess I'm now obliged to say this, but I now give Genesis of the Daleks pretty much like nearly everybody else, a 10 out of 10. I mean, previously I would have given it an 8, but rewatching it, yeah, it's got some great stuff. I mean, I've got some issues with it, but I've had some issues with other 10 out of 10 stories. Some of them, not so much problems. Some of them I only had problems on that one viewing, or noticed on those one viewings, and some of them I didn't really have much problem with, or didn't have so much until the recent viewings. But, yeah, and some of them were more for objective reasons rather than subjective, and I think this one falls more into that category, but it's still I still had a better time with it than I ever had before. My opinion on it could change again, but for right here, right now, it's pretty much very similar to the majority. Not quite unanimous, but mostly unanimous. It's a very high ranked story. And whilst I don't consider it one of the best, or the best, I still consider it super high. And yeah, it's certainly one of the best of the Tom Baker era, and 1970s at least. and second best of the season. I just don't consider it one of the best of all time. Maybe it might scratch the top 20, certainly be maybe top 20, 30 and 40. So anyway, that's Genesis of the Daleks. Surprisingly amazing for me. I mean, if you haven't seen this, this is the one that people say this is the one classic story you do need to watch, and I see why. So I have seen why before rewatching this. So, but I would certainly recommend you try and get this one. If you've got the season 12 box set, it's there. It's all there ready to go. There's even a movie version on this as well that cuts down on bits. So, yay. I haven't seen that version yet. But by the sounds of it, that sounds great. Anyway, so that's it from me. Thank you for watching. And actually, the story did feel like it would be a good season finale. But it wasn't the season finale. No, that's the next story, Revenge of the Cybermen, the last story of season 12. Mind you, I think also, as I may have mentioned before, I think Terror of the Zygons, should have been maybe in this season, but then it was pushed back to season 13. I'm not quite sure on that one, though. Again, like I said, they may have already have sorted out what they were doing for those seasons around that time. But anyway, Genesis of the Daleks does feel very much like a season finale, but we got Revenge of the Cybermen. Yeah, that's fun. Where is next to do? So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for that story. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Here's a taste of your own medicine gun. Stop burping when I'm trying to talk about Dalek voices. And I just...